Yo, what up, friends? So, today is Zentangle Day 17. I got three new patterns for us. They're not super crazy, but I kind of enjoy them. And let's just jump into it. So, today, to get started, you're going to make sure you have a pencil, a pen, and a marker. Or this could be and or a marker, whatever you choose. And to get started, make sure you come to your journal. You're drawing four dots, kind of large here. Not quite this big. This is very big, but 3.5, 4 inches by 4 inches. Draw your dots in. You're going to create a border that is very loose, almost like a piece of string. Then within the border, you're going to create this interesting space any way you'd like. And again, imagine you're laying a piece of string down, it's touching the edges, and this is going to divide our card up into some nice equal spaces for us to add some cool patterns in. We're going to learn 3 today, and you have 15 other days of patterns and techniques and all kinds of other things up and ready to go for you guys. So, let's set this stuff aside and let's jump into our patterns today. All right. So the first pattern we have today is Vitruvius. Vitruvius. And this is a pattern that very much is a rose type of design here. But to start this, we're going to find an area that we are trying to fill in, and we're going to make these kind of larger circles. Now, the bigger you make your circles, the easier it's going to see. The easier it's going to be to see, and the easier it's going to be to make some decisions. So I've just kind of got an area here that I'm working in on my card. I'm going to start by drawing these kind of, decently sized circles. I'm going to do them in rows. You don't have to do them in rows, but you can. Now, opposed to making these like a lot smaller than one another, I'm gonna let them run off the card instead. I want them to be all relative size. All of relative size. I'm doing this in pencil first because I know if I did this in pen first, I'd probably mess it up. But you know yourself. So, all right, I'm going to come back in with my pen, and I'm going to go over each of these circles. They don't need to be super perfect, but I'm going to try my darndest. If there's any areas that have holes, that's fine. You can let them be holes. At the end of this, those will all get filled in. We'll just do them black with a marker, or just shade them in really dark with a pencil. Almost done here. Boom. All right. Cool. So now that I have this done, I can go ahead and erase some of my pencil lines here. This is just for me, for ease, especially as I'm going to be doing a lot of shading here in a moment. This kind of gets a lot of those marks out of the way. All right, got my circles nice and drawn in. All right, so the way this works is we're going to add a square into each circle, and then we're going to add another circle into that square. So I'll just start here on one of these. I'll start right here. I think this is a good one. You can imagine that there's a square inside of this circle. And then inside of that square, I'm going to create another circle, right? And that is the step. And, if you want to rotate your square, you can, but then you're just going to draw a circle back inside that square. So, you could do this in a pattern if you'd like. You could do this very randomly if you would like. But the whole deal is we're drawing a square or a rectangle inside each of these circles, and then we're filling that area with another circle. Pretty low key. Let's see here. And for areas that kind of run off the card, I'm just going to do what I did. I'm just going to stop where it stops. Boop. And this would be this way. Alright, so you can kind of see what I got going on here. And you know what? I was doing a couple in some random directions. But I'm just going to kind of roll through now. Be a little random about this. But if you wanted to do them all the same direction, you totally could. Whoops. Did that a little too narrow. So I'm just going to... That one's just going to be a little different, and that's okay. So you have these they almost look like playing cards or something, kind of floating inside these circles with that round back on the back of them, like a Pokemon card. Now, there is an optional step here, and that is if you feel like you have enough room, and this is one of those things I recommend if you do this, you commit all the way. If you feel like you have enough space inside of these circles, you could add another square and another circle. So I messed up on this one already, so this would be the perfect one to kind of go through and add another set. I know that can look a little messy, but if you want to get super particular, you can definitely do this. And this is why I say it's kind of like a rose pattern, because the more like complex you make this, the more like a flower it looks. Now again, this is optional. If there's not enough space to do this, I don't recommend doing it, because it can really get messy and be very difficult to kind of read. I kind of also recommend that when you do this, you change the kind of like angle of your square. Sorry if that was off the screen. So if this one's going this way, I'm going to try to not make it so in line. See, that one I did just in line, and it's not as cool as one that shifts around. Okay, so there is one where I've done 2 layers. And if you draw these really big, you could add a 3rd layer. But what now I'm going to do is I'm going to go in. I'm going to fill in these in-between areas. I'm going to do mine in black, but like I said, you could do this with a pencil, kind of dark if you would like. But I'm going to get rid of the space between. And that's a technique that we covered a long time ago, and it wasn't called shading. It was auras and I'm drawing a blank. Because it's a weird word. Almost done here. It kind of looks like a bouquet almost of like little flowers. Just with these black lines even. All right. Here I got my area kind of nice and filled in. I filled in these areas of shadow, of overlapping. Hopefully I didn't miss any spots. Now I'm going to go in, I'm going to shade these little guys. And for this, I'm just going to pick a direction of light. And I'm going to treat just the kind of outer circle here. I'm going to say the light is coming this way. So I'm just going to add a little light gray kind of on the back side. And then I'll probably kind of just blend it kind of circular like so, just to get a little value in there. Kind of on those side petals. You can barely tell I made a little mistake there if I didn't point it out and you didn't watch it happen live. All right. Once I have this kind of light shade in, this kind of light value in, I'm just going to go back and darken just the teeniest bit of the edge with my pencil, just to kind of help it almost fade a little bit into the background there. This would be adding just a little dark bit, kind of closest to the edge. There we go. There it is. Vitruvius, right? Pretty cool little pattern. I hope you enjoyed it. It's got a bit of it's got a little bit of chaos to it, but sometimes we need something like that in our pattern. But it also can lend to something being very technical as a card. So, all right, let's set that one aside. I'm going to move on to the next one called Courant. And Courant is pretty interesting. It's making a bunch of squiggly lines that are squiggly into an area. So imagine, if you will, that you have a space on your card. I have this kind of teardrop shape here, or leaf shape. Right. So to do a current area, what I'm going to do is within this, I'm going to draw a bunch of squiggly lines, kind of even more so. Right, I'm adding more squigglies to my already squiggly line. All right, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in now that I have these squiggly lines drawn, and I'm going to find every little area, and I'm going to make a spiral, and I'm gonna start on the outside, and I'm just gonna kind of move to the inside. Try to do this patiently so that you're leaving nice spaces in between your cards. I like to do these smaller ones first. I'm gonna pretend like that line's not there, because if it's too small of a gap, it won't work. Right. And I'll work my way up to larger sizes as I go here. And it doesn't really matter where you start. you could theoretically start on the inside, but it's going to be it might be a little harder to find your edges if you do that. Okay, so I did all my like nice little curved ones first. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go in and try to start filling in some of these spaces. So I have this kind of outside edge here. Let's start like this, and then I'm just going to follow this curve. I'm going to leave myself some space in between these objects, right? And see, there's a spiral I just made. All right, let's see here. I got this large area here, nice and open. Start there. We'll leave a gap around what I've already drawn. Check us out, right? So I'm just filling in little areas of spirals. Nothing too crazy. This is kind of a fun one. You remember like way back, like first day of cards, we did this one, I think it was called Crescent Moon. And we had that like crazy spiral that we put in between all those little circles. This kind of reminds me of that a bit, but the end result is it's very almost tribal like. The end result of this one is. And like I said, you can start this spiral wherever you would like on the edge. So I'm trying to be a little random, but it can be difficult to be a little random. I'm trying to be particular as well. Just trying to make sure there's nice spaces in between everything. Now this one, I'm a little on the fence about adding value to this, because essentially you would just add value to the edges, but there's something kind of like aesthetic about just leaving this the way it is. So I'm going to leave that up to you. I'm going to say if you don't shade this, I'm not going to fault you at all. So for this one, I kind of got a weird area here. So I'm going to combine some of these smaller sections. And that's kind of what you got to do here. Same here. I have this kind of larger area over here and this C shape. So I may make a little triangle here. And these are some of the decisions you might have to make when you're doing this. These kind of really small areas of lines. Like if I go all the way back here, I'm not going to be able to come back out. Right? And then boom, there's Courant. And of course, I want to kind of erase the pencil on the outside and the inside. Right? Because it kind of makes that outside edge here. And if you want to shade, like I said, you would just shade around the edge here. I don't think it needs it necessarily, but like I said, I'm gonna leave that up to you. You would shade very lightly along this edge, and you would smooth it in kind of towards the center. Very lightly along this edge, smooth it in till it goes towards center, and then you come back with a dark again with your pencil very darkly, just on the edge to kind of give it that rounded look. But yeah, this is a really cool pattern called Courant. Yeah, very fun to do. Very, very fun to do. All right, and last but not least, this is Sedgling. Very similar to a lot of the um, floral type, growing, bush, berry type patterns we've had in the past. Um, this can be used to really populate an area. It could be used on the outside edge to kind of just give a little depth, if you will. But I'm just going to create an area here, and we're just going to fill them in. You know what? I've been doing a lot of circles here lately. I might get one with a little point to it. Just to add some visual interest to my little notes cards here. All right. So kind of like a tooth or a claw. That's what I got going on now. Okay. So the way this works is we're going to start with this extrusion, right? And it's going to make kind of a stalk. Right. And then what we're going to do is it's actually a spiral that kind of makes the top end of this. Kind of like that. And this kind of makes the berry. Now then you add another stalk. This one can come up here, pop out here. I found a way to kind of mimic a spiral without being a true spiral, and that is to do offset circles. So I would bring it a little lower, and then it doesn't really feel like drawing spirals because spirals can be kind of difficult. But what we want to do is we really want to fill this area with this this pattern. Right, I have some areas in here that are kind of odd. I may let some little things like pop over the sides. But yeah, mainly, I'm gonna add these little stalks and either do 2 or 3 loops here, almost like a sucker or something. I don't know. This pattern evokes a lot of options. Be sure you're overlapping and showing that kind of space there. Always, always important. I have one coming up over here. And you just kind of keep building. That's kind of it. I could leave this space open, or maybe I add a stalk kind of sneaking up back here. It's easy to run ones off the edge there, you may see. Almost done with this guy. You could also change the direction of your spiral if you'd like. One more right in here. Yeah. All right, and there you go. So, and then also, I'll come in and I'll darken my areas that are dark. If I want to, I can add some plants kind of in the background here, some stalks, even though the end result won't really be seen. Kind of just for visual interest. This is like such a small step, but it's so important. This kind of just filling in areas like black. Because if this thing is like super packed together, like a plant would be, it shows that, you know, this would be shadow, this would be depth. And that really helps when it comes to creating something that, even though it's just patterns, like it could exist or it is somewhere, it's just kind of like existing in this space. Just following my pencil on here a little bit. I'll straighten it out a little more in a moment. Right there. I might have a few little spots to get, but I'll get those in a moment. But yeah, you see how that kind of really like set off the look of the shape? I could work on these for hours. Like, just keep doing them. Alright, hopefully that looks more, kind of got an Atotsky vibe to it. But, yeah. So when it comes to shading, these kind of things, you kind of imagine them almost being like umbrellas, if you will. It's kind of odd. I think of this kind of center area being more shaded. Is that the way I want to go? Or I can just pick a direction of light. You know what? I'll do that. Light's coming this way. So value is going to be lower here. And then I'm just going to kind of push it up a bit. And then any areas where it is overlapped, because the light's coming this way, I'm going to say it casts a shadow back as well. So for example, this guy here will be shaded from the light source, and then the overlap here. Yeah. I may have that all wrong, but as long as I'm consistent, I think it's okay. See, there will be a little bit of cast shadow there, a little bit of cast shadow here. And then I'll probably shade a bit of the stalks too. Maybe not fully, but mostly. Alright, and then to kind of finish it up, where I have some value, I'm just going to go along the very lowest edges here and add in a little darkness. And this is just going to help with the fade and kind of transitions and add a little more visual texture. Super, super clean. What a cool little pattern. Kind of add to our dictionary, if you will. But there it is, friends. Last pattern for the day. So I can't wait to see what you guys come up with these like with these new patterns. You know, maybe you have a favorite. I'm definitely feeling this current one. But yeah, so I'll catch you guys. I'll catch you guys next time.